A sutra on time written in the colloquial now. A discourse from another world, the many dimensions of human experience, dispersing old finite structures into infinity and beyond. This is the untold story of time and space, how it comes into existence, how human beings interact with it, how it serves to bring all tribes, cultures, communities, and nations back together again in mutual collaboration. Allow this book to delight you, to challenge you, your thinking, and invite you to fully participate in the story you have come here to co-create. The Galactic Historian, The World According to Andrew Bartzis, is the spiritual medicine for our time.
Take 2 Galactic Historian books and call me in the morning. I am joined by my intrepid co-writing co-host, Bruce the Animal MacDonald. Welcome to our show, Bruce. Bruce, are you there? Bruce Studio GH, you are muted, which is stopping Bruce to come through.
Not sure what's happening on his end.
Yeah, well, apparently when Zoom switches to another room, I have to go back and reset either my volume or my mic. In this instance, it was the mic. Takes one of them down to 0.
And my view bars are it won't let me exit full screen and put it into the minimize mode. the Zoom. Yeah, the Zoom gremlins are here.
I was gonna say, what chapter of the book is that?
Yes, that's like chapter 9. Bruce, real quick, let's welcome everybody here that's come to this show that's about the book. Whether you have the book or don't have the book, doesn't matter at this particular point. But we are looking for people who want to talk back with us about the book. So we are going to ask people who want to give us direct questions to go ahead and raise your hands. We want to get to as many callers as we can today. So click on that participants button, click raise thy hand if you have individual questions direct to us. So Bruce, let's get started real quick. The journey in making the book, we talked to each other in early December, and then we said we're going to set a meeting for the 5th of January.
Correct.
And by the 5th of March, we were on a 3rd draft, I believe. The 3rd draft, and it's just a little bit after March.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
And the original goal was a June 15th publication, which we were done by June 12th. That's a fast process for a book, isn't it?
I would switch fast for intense, but yeah. Yeah. So for me, on my end, it was just Galactic Historian 724. And there's no way to multitask a book like that. You got to have your full person on it at all times.
And part of the journey for you was absorbing the information, because you didn't really know a lot about me before we started. And then I handed you a 75,000 word document, and I go, let's start with this.
Yeah. So learning the material, what it is we've been talking about. I knew your name, and I knew that you were a public speaker. I really didn't know what class or field you fit into, wasn't I think the first video I ever watched of yours. I think Monty recommended it, but it was like an hour and 10 minutes on just money. You and Martina did it, and I went, I've never seen that before. I mean, that's, about 80% of it I knew, but the 20% I didn't know. My main question was, how could I ever have figured that out? And that was, kind of the hook.
That money show, yes. I remember you telling me it was the single most intricate show you've heard as about the Babylonian money magic system, how we connected it to everything.
So yeah, and just for the listeners who don't know anything about my background or my bio, I was raised by an economist. My father worked as an economist his whole life in the equivalent of the Canadian State Department, and my brother is a chartered financial analyst. And he manages a public fund in excess of $70 billion now. I thought I understood money, and then I saw this video, and then I went, I don't understand money at all. Right.
Bruce, your microphone is very hot right now, and it's starting to get some distortions.
Okay.
Let's get into your audio settings and go find out what's going on with that.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Oh
7.
God, so much better.
Okay.
Yes.
Is that the level there?
No, it's a little too low. Just put it up 15%.
How about right there?
A little bit more because you're sitting back.
How about right there?
I think that should be fine. Robert, does that sound about right?
Sounds awesome.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Yeah. So I thought I knew money, and then I didn't, and then I started to watch a little bit of Andrew's material, and then I thought that there's really a book here. I mean, I remember thinking to myself, this guy is saying more than can really be said in the mediums he's saying them in, and there's, you know, if this is for real, what I'm seeing here, and I wouldn't know that until I got into a book. A book is the ultimate evidentiary process, by the way. You can't fake a book. You can't. So if it's not there, if the story is not there, if what you thought was there isn't there, you you can't make anything up to replace it. So it was when I got into the book that I not only realized the depth of the material, I realized suddenly that, you know, I had swam out into a riptide. I had swam out into a riptide is what had happened. And it started out, I saw something floating in the surf. I put two feet into the ocean. It kept dragging me another foot. And then next thing I know, I was floating a little bit. Then I was underwater, fully swimming. And the next thing I know, I looked back and the beach was like 300 yards away. I'd been pulled out by a riptide. And I went, wow, this is incredible. That's, I think, what Andrew calls going to the edge of unknowing. But for me, it happened very quickly, very, very quickly. And then we started the book by going through a number of things that had been prepared specifically for the book, you know, by Laura and Martina. And that's where I started. And then I ended up assimilating just an enormous amount of material, like about 300,000 words of material of various seminars and talks that Andrew had given. And would you call that like 12.5-hour interview?
I lost your words there. So it sounds like you're muted out.
What's that?
Your audio dropped there for a second. Say that again.
Would you call the 2013 Mount Shasta interview with the what was his name again? Lance White.
Lance White.
Yeah, Lance White. Would you consider that sort of like your real public debut?
Technically, no, because I did the December 21st, 2012 show on broadcast over a bunch of stations. So at that point, the Mount Shasta interviews didn't get released until September, 2.5 months afterwards. But they were supposed to be released as a product, and they ended up going out for free. So like there was this weird thing that went on. But once it started going, did my view count, knowingness increase manyfold? Yes, it did. But I hadn't already had a footprint before that, because I was doing like 28 hours of live radio a week on a bunch of different stations, on a bunch of different interviews, going on with other people, doing law and sovereignty shows, doing spiritual healing shows. I mean, just about everything.
Yeah.
Shows with back in the early days when Dave Corso, Wolf Spirit Radio, we'd have our nighttime show with Gerald Whitehorse Standing, a Native American pre-elder. And we would go very, very in depth with those shows, not necessarily about spirituality, but in general topics of how spirituality can change your perceptions of how this world works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. So yeah, and then we.
Oh yeah, I forgot somebody in the chat room. So yeah, all the shows that I did with JP, that was the Soul Sessions show, or Soul, what I forgot what the fuck what that show was called. I had so many shows I can't remember them all. Remember them all anymore.
Yeah. Is that the JP? I think it is, the Scottish fellow.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Soul Expressions. Yes. Thank you, Sean.
Yeah.
And then all the roundtable shows that I did on Wolf Spirit Radio, and they're not Revel Radio roundtables. These were high quality people coming on, not just a bunch of redneck yo-holes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we had the top 5 super soldiers all on one show, plus me on a regular basis.
Yeah.
All the other unique whistleblowers that would just show up.
Yeah.
I'd get a random call. My Skype would start ringing, and Dave's like, "Hi, you're on Andrew. You're on air, Andrew. How you doing?" "Great, Dave. How's it going with you?" Here, you're on with this and this super soldier and this psychic." "Oh, great." And then 2 minutes later, I'd be wowing them.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I not to forget Natalie. Everyone who knows that too. The sovereignty shows. Yep. And all the horsey stuff I did with Natalie too. Anyways, the early material was a force amplification. Now, the amount of people that come to me, some come straight through revocation. They would never go to a webpage. They'd never watch my show. It's because they see psychic or they see call-in shows and they think it's astrology about your boyfriend and, you're being infected by Christian demons. Okay. So they would never, but they find the revocations and like they go to do an ayahuasca ceremony. I can't tell you how many people found me solely through that, or people making recommendations, that this person will have a very different unique. Anyway, I could ask people in the chat room, how did you guys come to find me? What brought it? Was it Galactic History? Was it something else? Some people came to my events that I would put out. There's a lot of times if you bought the course, you would be able to come to my event with an extra coupon ticket to bring a person with you. Okay. So I was very open. So as many people could lawyer Eisenhower a year ago, exactly. So the journey into getting a book is the next level for me, because it allows me to see the career that I've had, the ups and downs, the in-betweens, the great journeys. And I know Robert's in the background and he's been around since, virtually the beginning there. 2014, I think, is the first time I met Robert.
Yeah, we met in 2014, and then the 2015 when we started to plan the events.
Plan the event. And actually, you had the studio. We got the studio in February set up at my house.
The studio install at Nats too.
Yeah, the Nats too. So it's 2014 to 2015. Yeah. So yeah, the book was the next generation, and to see you go through the journey of absorbing all the material and then being able to spit that back out with perfect prose.
So, something I've never done on a show before. I think you and I have talked about this, but I don't know if you'd be comfortable with me talking about it on a show. But just to give people my take on, what it's like to be affected by your energy.
Oh yes, please share that. Please share that.
Okay, so how do I preface this? I have a lot of experience being in proximity to unusual people, and unusual people at a vibrational level. This has been a characteristic of my life that has been around since my late teens. I've been personal friends, like go to his house and have a cup of tea with Taoist masters in Taiwan, esoteric Buddhist masters, a Sufi sheikh in Toronto. I've been to ashrams in India in different traditions and different schools of meditation. And there's a thing about when you're around a spiritual person, there's part of the experience that is just extremely normal, right? Like, hi, how you doing? Like Andrew is an extremely normal person. And then there's another part to it that's multidimensional. Like it's all happening simultaneously. And different people have different signatures. I've been around living saints in the universal tradition, and there's this incredible energetic imprint around the saint. It's like pure light, pure love. Everybody, I've been around extraordinary martial artists, like 33rd generation in one family master visiting and doing a show in Mississauga, and I go visit him with my son, and he chooses to walk over and spend 5 minutes talking to me, and there's like 100 people there. So I and you feel his energy. This guy was like standing next to a power plant, like literally like wires. It was the energy coming off of him was extraordinary. And so what Andrew's energy is extremely subtle. It's like a fox in the snow. And what it does, and it doesn't just affect you. It goes out to 1 degree of separation of the people around you as well, whether they're conscious of it or not. So it's almost like an electrical circuit board. And I would describe Andrew's principal signature as healing. Okay, and I don't know, but I mean true healing, not just the resolution of an ailment that's physical or, behavioral, but why it came about in the first place, and sort of the deep psychic tissue that's producing the physical results in your timeline repeating itself. And I've never experienced anything like that. And I mean, I wrote the book, but it's going to be rippling through me probably until I'd say 2025, 2027. This is a lot to digest. There's a lot that's happened in the short time I've known Andrew. Very, very fast. For those of you who are on a spiritual practice, think of it like meditating for 90 minutes every day for 3 years. The intensity of that energy cultivation compressed into like 12 weeks. It's just like a bucket of cold water in the face. And so the principal vibration, the principal signature is healing. And then the cosmology that comes about in his work, and how he talks about being human and what healing is and why it's so important right now. And healing is extremely important right now, more so than a lot of times in the near and distant past. It's very important to engage the full faculty of karmic resolution right now, specifically now and in the years to come in this lifetime. It's very important to get these karmas cleaned up. And the cosmology that Andrew presents, I find to be the most fascinating and accurate cosmology I ever read in my life. To the point where when I was working on the book with Andrew, I went through, Andrew and I gave it a name. It was like sacred cow tipping. And it's just like, man, why didn't anybody ever tell me this? I've met so many extraordinary people. Why didn't they tell me this? Why would they not just tell you this is a gene farm? This is this is that. And it's a legitimate question. And, I think I've come up with an answer. And the answer is simply that, being the galactic historian, Andrew sort of had the right to say this. Like it was his job to say this in a sense. It's part of his mission. It's not the job of an abbot at a Buddhist monastery, even if he's enlightened. How can he change things? It's not the job of your guru or your yoga instructor. And if they don't know this stuff, it doesn't mean that they're not spiritual. This stuff is coming out now because it's part of a great collective healing for those who can receive it. And that's the part of writing the book I hold in my heart. And that is, to be a part of that and to be able to assist in that is an extraordinary experience to get that book out, Andrew, and another one in 2022, I think will.
It was a fabulous experience on my part too, to see that from transcript to first draft to second draft, and then to watch Bruce go through the transformation as he's beginning to have the ahas. And then we'd have these 2-minute talk here, 5-minute talk here, 20-minute talk there, spread over a day. He's like, I just need you to answer me this one question. Why didn't the sheikhs know? Why did this tell me? How does this work like this?
Sacred cow days.
It's like,
Sacred cow days.
took them
Right.
all over. Exactly. There are a
Yeah.
few days I hit one cow, and it's like dominoes. I took like 10 cows down.
Yeah. So sacred cow days where you just sort of have to move on and just sort of live with it, and it is what it is. And there's a lot of things about our reality that when people find them out, I don't want to say they could be depressing, Andrew. I mean, if you're capable of self-responsibility, they're not depressing. But if you have problems with self-responsibility, they might be terrifying, right? So
yeah, just a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Because you have to be responsible for your own fear.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you want to talk about like just putting the whole thing together structurally, because this thing.
But it's interesting how you describe my energy as a winter fox in the snow, and there are other times you would have this saying, that the energy was so bright and intense. You ended up having some gastro issues go on.
Yeah, a major evacuation. That happened about a half dozen times. Major evacuation of the bowels, and yes. This, as I've come to understand, is a common side effect of So I guess when I say you have a healing signature, I guess that's the shamanic. The shamanic is always a healing figure, right? The shaman.
Not necessarily. Sometimes it's about having to push the I am to challenge itself, to go through the self-litmus testing instead of avoiding doing it. But sometimes the shaman is the competitive side with the self. That's not necessarily bad, but it's what keeps that non-mystical commitment, courage, and discipline flowing.
Yeah. Yeah. So for those of you who write, just imagine trying to capture Andrew in the book. Like, how would you begin? How would you structure it? What would be the beginning, the middle, and the end? Why is it the beginning? Why is it the middle? Why is it the end? How do you write something that is just full of insight and information, and put it all together in a manner that it can be read sequentially and it has a sequential meaning? And really, it's non-sequential, because that's the whole thing about the Galactic historian's frequency, is it's not sequential. And so, weirdest, most magical book I've ever worked on. And there were so many serendipitous moments and so many transcendental moments working on this book. Not in the material or discussing it, that happened as well, but in your life around you while you're working on the book. I could just see it. It was a very, and still is, a very high time of change and healing around me everywhere. I mean, everywhere, folks. Like my family back home in Canada, my family here in Costa Rica, like everybody around me has been affected by writing this book. It's like anything that was at a karmic red light, the light turned green and horns started honking. Okay, it's time to move now. It's time to move now. It's time to move now.
Exactly. Before there's a road rage incident at the green light.
Yeah. 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 And, a lot happened in the process of writing that book as well. I mean, there's stuff I haven't spoken about, Andrew, like, some's not suitable for the show right now, but for instance, in the very short time we were working on the book, like 3.5 months, I had a horse die and my dog needed an operation for cancer. All happened in the middle of and so it was like these things were coming up to try to distract me emotionally and in other ways the same way. Right. And, I just took everything in stride. Dog needs an operation. Okay, let's take the dog to the vet. The horses died. There was an accident. Okay, but a lot of stuff happened during the writing of the book, and then a lot of stuff just continues to happen. It's like an energetic concentric circle that just keeps moving out at its own pace. It's not super fast, and everywhere it goes, it creates change in my life. And this is what I hope everybody gets out of Andrew's work. I mean, this isn't, Andrew's not presenting a religious path or a spiritual path. He's presenting a kind of open source material for individual spiritual advancement based on your own commitment to doing the work. And on that note, let me say the book itself is a bit of work. You're going to get spiritual merit just for reading the book 2 or 3 times, because there's a bit of work. There's no way to make Andrew easy. It can't be done. I mean, I wish it could, but it can't. You know, it's never going to hit that sort of Deepak Chopra or Eckhart Tolle vibe that you're going to get in one of those books. It just can't be done with Andrew. He doesn't fit in that container at all.
We're not Deepak sellout here.
No, I mean he's probably done some good for some people. I mean,
no, he has, but once again, the teachings are still limited. That don't give enough of the things, and what we specialize here is self-illumination. We open sourced source, so self-illumination was open sourced.
Yeah.
Okay. No longer do you need the individual religions or separate gurus. The framework is there for you. All you got to do is collect your material, your ingredients, find the tool bag, the toolbox, swing the hammer, get on the ladder, use the level, and make your mental spiritual construct.
Yeah. This is a big thing I think we're going to into in the 21st century. Everybody's, so curious about where the world is going now, given all the uncertainty in our institutions and systems. And I think when you get the right perspective on what's going on here, the world's going completely in the right direction. As terrifying as it seems, but the terror is just what you're holding on to. If you let it go and you just go with the flow, we're going into open source spirituality. We're not going to have to believe robed eunuchs anymore and sacrifice virgins or throw people into volcanoes or any of the other crazy shit people have done to worship their gods,
or
including going into a cave.
Vivisect them alive, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. So Robert, are you there? Let's bring in Montesaurus.
Monty's in the room.
I am here.
Montesaurus Rex, how's it going?
Here's a book I wrote. I mean, read. I read the book. Sorry. My mistake. I read the book.
Yeah.
I read what draft did I read, Bruce? Was it the second one or the third one?
Second.
The second one, yeah. So this is obviously slightly different. But I binged read that draft and slammed straight through it. And I've had this for over a month and I'm up to page 18.
Really?
I'm doing it really slow now because it's like, after finishing reading reading it once, like, I think my multi-dimensional self is like, yeah, good luck with that. When you open a zip file.
Yes.
And the best way of describing it is once the zip file's open, it's basically going, now there's a right-click button on your mouse. Whoa! It's at that level where it's like, wait, I can do all this other stuff because I can right-click on my mouse?
Suddenly you're seeing the source code exactly in the words.
And my little contribution to the story of how Bruce and Andrew created that book, Bruce wanted me to get in contact with you, Andrew. Yep. And I basically said to Andrew, have you ever thought of writing a book? And you said, no, maybe, because I know a guy. So I think that's my soul contract. Is like, would you like to be part of this magnificent bit of media that will help humanity? I don't know, a bit too much weight and responsibility. Well, you can introduce them. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah. Bruce, Andrew, Bruce, I'm going back to the bar. Who wants a scotch?
It was June 2020. You told me about that. And I said, give me 6 months because I was so busy with all the other stuff going on. And then exactly 6 months later, December, we had the meeting, and 1 month later, we came up with the agreement, and now the book's produced.
Yeah.
So
throwing pebbles on the side of a mountain, and it's just
Yeah.
snowball and avalanche.
So from June, I worked with my mentorship students, Dave, Martina, Laura, and Mary, to come up with audios that they converted into transcripts from October to mid-December. And those recordings and some of the other shows I did with Martina were the fundamentals of the first document that I gave to Bruce. And I remember talking to Bruce, he's like, I've never received anything like this in any of the books I have ever written. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, because it wasn't like Andrew saying, I'll come back in 6 months. It's like, do come back in 6 months, and in 2 months I'll start doing sort of research and preparing. And so Bruce probably obviously had a different sort of thing. Oh, cool. Andrew said, yes, he's awesome. I'll sit down and we'll start doing an interview and doing a little bit of research. And then Andrew goes, here's 80,000 words. Thump, start there. Start. There's also 12 hours of me talking to Lance. So have at it, my friend.
Yeah. So Bruce, do you have any thoughts on that first, receiving that first document you might be able to share with people?
Well, yeah. So, what Andrew's referring to when I received the document. Now, I had written a couple books before the Galactic Historian, and in each instance, they were co-writes. And in those two books, there was nothing to begin with. The books began just with interviews on Skype and transcribing interviews. I mean, brutal, like 1950s Cold War journalism. I'm going to start the recorder now. And this was much smoother. And there was just an incredible array of material to look at. And so what I was looking for was something that I could look at that was sort of could be stitched into a story that I could create the slightest amount of dramatic tension with to keep people turning the pages. Right. So, and it was there.
And it was there. Any thoughts, like when you first read the first document, and then kind of tell people, part of being a technical writer is how you break the documents down?
Yeah, you went out for like 10 seconds. Sorry. One more time.
Do you want to tell the people how your experience reading it the first time, and then how you break the document downs into markdown files? People might be interested how your technical skill works with this type of material.
All right. So for those of you who made the horrible mistake of getting a linguistics degree at university, you might find this interesting. So every language has fundamentals, right? And what I started to notice as I went through Andrew's material is that when he says something, he gives a complete definition of it that is extremely specific in the moment, and always, generally, not always, but generally in context to a question that he's been asked. And so what I did as I started to go through all of Andrew's material is I started to create short files and title them. So entangled, unentangled, just the definitions. And it might be 300 words from the document he gave me, the Q document prepared with Martina, Laura, Dave, and Mary, or another document I asked for, transcripts from an interview. And then I created all these modules, and everybody was a little bit confused at the beginning. I remember the early meetings, like everybody in that, well, what's this guy doing? Like, I don't understand what he's doing. And then I explained it to Andrew. I said, when we have it all in these various forms, then we can just join it together and make the story. And I gave a really colorful metaphor that I won't repeat in this interview, but it was extremely funny. You can share it.
You can share it in this one.
I said, Andrew, we're going to be able to move all these things around. They're going to be, these little modules of writing are going to start moving around like the balls on an abacus after the Navy leaves in a Chinese brothel in the Shanghai port. It's just going to be going like this. And I said, so the first layer of Andrew's material was just fleshing it all out into a series of definitions and concepts. So not just definitions, concepts. So what is the concept of the Galactic Historian itself? Why title yourself that? And then if you look at the chapters, you're immediately going to go, yeah, I know exactly what these guys are talking about. So here's the modules Bruce was talking about, hologram, 1,000 words on what a hologram is, and a little hint about how it might pertain to the rest of the book as the story unfolds. Sound and light is the principal divinely constructed energy for our hologram on pretty much all dimensions that are on this dualistic system. And then some parts of the book were just amazing to write, like sometimes there were just little stories that fit into the timeline, like the returning of the dragon energy. And this doesn't always come out in your work in seminars and interviews and stuff, Andrew, because it's so intense that you can't get it out in an hour or two if you're being interviewed or giving a show or something. But there really is a whole story. And this is something I knew as a writer, and something I knew spiritually about our reality, that there was a story. And because if there was no story, you wouldn't be here, because your incarnation would have to be the result of the dramatic tension behind the story. How else could you create incarnated galactic historian? So with that sort of realization, that sort of Zen cone popping in my head, I had the courage to just sort of modularize all the writing. And I said, look, we're going to find the story. It's just like the geologists have done the work. Keep drilling. We're going to hit the vein. Just keep going. I know it's there. I know it's there. We have the satellite imaging. And then the story came together. And as it came together in that third draft, I have to admit, I even went, geez, how the hell did this happen? It was like a miracle. The way I'm very curious to hear from Monty after he's finished this draft he's bought, but he probably doesn't remember the second draft he read. That was like 4 months ago now. But there is a significant difference. It's just like the whole thing lit up in the final draft. And
there's not a huge word count change between the second and the third draft. It's only about 12,000, 8,000 word count change, and it's mainly you brought back the beauty and the emotion, which was what your last part of that journey, having to have the beauty of each subject matter in it.
Also, reading the book, the actual physical book, there's a foreword by David Ellis, which sets it up perfectly. Now, at one point, Bruce asked me to do an intro, and 1,200 words of comic timing and brilliance, but then but Bruce has said like, oh, I'm sorry, we've gone with David, and I read David's in, it was like, well, fucking duh. Like what David does, it just sets it up perfectly. It it sets up the I'm going to use sets up the boxing ring, because consciously you're fighting with yourself. Because Andrew, we still need to make that T-shirt. It's me, isn't it? Because you'll be saying that a lot. Oh, it's me, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And so, David, I do want to, apart from grandstanding myself, but David's intro sets the book up really well. Just sort of clears kind of energy, sets the framework in the sandbox, and then you step out and you start to play.
Yeah, exactly.
I've sent you that intro. Have you read that intro?
Yeah, many times. Yeah, I'm going to figure out where to use it.
Okay. Do you like the jokes in it? Yeah, I mean, the comics coming out of me. Okay. Yeah, good.
Yes, absolutely. It was wonderful, Montesaurus. Do not worry.
Yeah. Well, what I find, like, Bruce has been talking about his writing. I'm going to talk about my writing. That happened. Like, I was recording Stardust, and Bruce said, "You write faster than you speak," because it was taking me a while to do the audiobook. But that draft basically 75-80% came out in an afternoon, and I slept on it and sort of came back to it. So, new perspective. Mm-hmm. And it was done in less than 24 hours with a sleep in the middle. Mm-hmm. And so it was meant to happen. And
spiritual osmosis. It's still creeping through like a coffee filter.
Yeah. So, I'm slowly, I am slow, as Andrew's nicknamed me, and I'm taking it on. I'm claiming the words. I am a lazy time lord. I'm not freezing time. I'm slowing it down as much as possible. And that's what I'm doing.
So you can get as much as possible out of every moment.
Yeah, because there's a part of me going, there's no time's an illusion and everything happens. And so it's like, but let's try and slow that down real hard.
Exactly.
So I'm reading it slowly to let it absorb, because after reading the draft, I basically said most people would have to read this 6 or 7 times, just because of the amount of energy and information. Mm-hmm. And I have a question, because we have many hands up. More than the comedy show, I like to point out.
I have Monty in this show actually apologized for that, actually. But, I do point out that, reading the book is doing the spiritual work. There was no way to water this material down anymore. And it is a hard book. This is not a romance novel you read on a train between Montreal and Toronto.
The second or third time, it's not hard. It's just understanding because you're at a different level. My question, I'll be an audience member. What would you recommend to people when you've read the book once or twice and you get the basic frameworks? I mean, obviously there's a lot of work in it, but if you understand like, oh, okay, I need to do work and I'm letting the concepts simmer but you know enough about the book, talking to normal people, because it's just that energy of consciousness where it's like, I so want to help. I've got so much information, and this will help you. But
this book is not meant to help others. It's help the individual.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is like, I'm finding it interesting talking to other people, learning to integrate to normies when you learn all this stuff. That's a better way of expressing it, I think.
Well, because the book itself is reshuffling your perception and perspective of how to communicate to people in general. Yeah. It's giving you different new potentials of how to communicate. And because you did the reading of the individual book, and like Bruce said, reading the book is doing the work. And for those people that find trouble with certain parts, read it out loud. Literally, read it out loud. Record yourself reading out loud. If you have trouble with a chapter or a section that just irks you for whatever reason, read it out loud and listen to it. Why? Because there's so much more packed into it when you let yourself to be the observer of your own voice. And one of the reasons we didn't put out an audiobook right away is it was not to just put up more book sales. It's because the physical book's going to have more of a potential in the beginning. And a lot of people say, where's the audiobook? Where's the audiobook? It'll probably come out in the beginning of the year. It will come out. But right now I want to put the traditional book out for those that have been waiting all this time for this traditional book. Okay.
And also the audiobook will be a different experience as well. Yes. Because you're doing it. I'm doing all Bruce's other books, but because you know how to talk and you know how to through frequency and sound. And interestingly enough, that's the chapter on sound and light, chapter 18. But yeah, and also co-author, the material. That's why I like audiobooks by the author, because they know exactly what they're trying to say. You'll be able to put in so much more from, is it more or is it just different flavor of energy between the book and the audiobook?
Well, I will be the flavor additive. It's still a pie, but it can be, I can make it a cherry pie, an apple pie, a banana cream pie. My particular energy reading the material will have its own unique impact for those that are going to be reading it. And I wanted to have the book out and go through the journey of having the book out long before I go to do the audio. It's my personal choice into that.
That makes sense.
And then the ebook will come out at the same time, but I wanted to put it out. There is a reason I wanted to put it out in paper first.
Well, it's a different experience. You read from a screen and your eyes adapt because it's light. But when you're holding it physically, you have to hold the book, and it's got its smells, its feels, and it's how did I describe it yesterday, Bruce? It's a book's basically a script. It's code for your personal holodeck, because when you read the book, you create it in your mind. And so that's why when movies are made, half the people don't like it because they imagine it completely different from what actually is on screen. And but it's something different from actually physically holding it. And books have been around how long, Galactic Historian? Like thousands of years.
Since people learned how to write and bind books, and then All right, guys, let's go to open up the callers. Robert, let's spin up the wheel of book callers, and he who has questions about the book, statements, concepts, ideas, experiences while you are reading or have read the book.
Okay, number one, Maria, you are signaled to unmute.
Maria, are you there? Going once. Maria, signal to unmute.
Oh. What should we do with Maria?
Hello.
Hello. Where are you calling from? Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Mallorca, Spain.
Mariotka Stain, thank you for welcome to the show.
Buenas noches.
Thank you very much for getting my call. Well, I've been following you for quite some time since Lance White. Thank you for writing this book. I've been waiting for this book for years, so it's been fantastic. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. What was your experience with the book?
Well, it was actually something very unexpected. I was really not expecting this kind of book, and at the same time, it was so inspiring, and it was wonderful, really exciting, and very thorough. And because I've been listening to all your shows for many years, reading this book, it was something like a compendium of all your shows, but at the same time, something new and unique. Well, I haven't finished it. Almost finished, but one of the things I wanted to ask you about is in your book, you mentioned that the event occurred in 2014, but many other people are talking about, this huge wave coming from the galactic center. It's like a huge solar flare. And
yeah, they've been saying that since 2009.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, is this true? Is this not true?
So it has partial truths to it. The galactic solar pulse went through our solar system in 2014, which triggered the event. Many of these other people still think it's coming. And my material, in my cosmology, it came in 2014, and it's now an open door and time frequency that people can start healing the unnatural karmas that they've gone through.
All right. Okay. So it's actually not coming anymore.
No, it's always there now.
Okay.
It's simply waiting for people to realize that it has already happened.
Fantastic.
That's what I was going to ask is the people that are predicting, there's a wave coming. I guess it's their personal experience because it's already here in 2014.
Yeah.
And so they're waiting for themselves to catch up. And then from their perspective, the wave would come through. Because that's one thing you've said, Andrew. It'll be in a galactic ascension, but it's all personal. What I find. Individual. Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense, because for the last few years, my whole body was going through all this transformation and feeling all this energy, new energy all through my body, and big changes in spiritually, but also my body. So I was wondering, well, what's going to happen? And people are talking about I don't know, people who are not ready will go up to the spaceships and things like that. And I thought,
but I've always said the spaceships are not going to come down and rescue you.
Yeah,
it's an individual journey.
Yeah,
there is no revaluation of the currency. There is no banksters takeover. A whole bunch of nothing is happening until you go into those other realms, begin to acknowledge them, and make reverence with it.
Exactly.
Right? And begin.
Thank you so much. It's really welcome. Very, very nice. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot for calling in.
Bye-bye.
That's another T-shirt idea. Save yourself, save the world.
Yes,
there you go.
Indeed.
So Bruce, you and I had a couple different experiences. You were wanting to know about the event, and the event had already passed, and how that processed in your brain. And you're like, huh? Why didn't anyone tell me this?
Well, look, my own timeline has been completely in tune with all the energetic shifts with actually no consciousness of it that I could verbalize. I came here in 2014. I completely changed my life in this time pattern. Very sort of intuitive.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Sorry. No, I hit my little
round two. All right, fighters come in, keep it clean, keep it above the waist.
I have a candle over here with a little glass thing around it, and I hit it.
Oh, okay.
No, it sounds like a bell. Anyway, go
So
ahead.
yeah, but now I definitely do see it, and I do see a path out of everything, and I find myself surrounded by people, not here where I physically live, but digitally, my first world friends will say. I find just people just beset by the worst forms of gloom and doom, and I just don't see it anymore. And I think it's an extraordinary transformation we're going through, and it's something wonderful.
Yes. So Robert,
Yeah.
let's spin up the wheel of callers and see who's going to be next with us.
Alrighty, Paul, your signal to unmute.
Paul, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Paul. Where are you calling from?
We've talked before. I'm calling from Calgary.
Ah, that Paul. I remember you.
Yes.
So were you had a chance to read the book?
Yeah, I finished it. It's amazing. On my second read, it's very profound and very provocative.
What's making it profound and provocative for you?
Well, there's a lot of this information out, but it's just so much depth in some of these concepts are challenging to perceptualize, I'll say.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a question, like,
sure,
go ahead.
Specific question. Go ahead with your question.
Yeah, like you mentioned in there that we know that the planets are moving into a lighter part of space, the galactic plane. But the book, you mentioned that the energies of Earth and Mars are inhibiting the movement of the planet into those more lighter aspects of the galaxy.
So it's not really inhibiting. It's more like it's acting like a rubber band. Earth and Mars are in a gravitational tug of war to pull the rest of Earth and its multidimensional aspects out of the lower light realms. So it's kind of like the clown handkerchief that keeps coming out with a different knot and a different knot and a different knot. And the more Mars is pulling on Earth, the more the rest of the celestial planets are pulling on Earth also, to get the many little knots and the clown thing out. Because Earth has been spread into tens of thousands of individuated negative timelines. So you gotta reassemble all the Earths. And that's one of the reasons why Earth itself as a planet went in retrograde comparatively to all the other planets.
Yeah, I had a question about if the retrograde was an aspect of that.
Yeah, the retrograde is an aspect of that, absolutely.
But from what you're saying, it's an inevitable process.
Yes, it's an inevitable process, but there will be people who are inevitably unable to sustain the change.
Yeah, you mentioned almost like not a bifurcation, but a separation of.
Bifurcation is a good way to put it.
Okay.
It's a better word than separation. Bifurcation.
Yeah, it implies choice, right? So,
yeah.
So basically, we're playing the waiting game.
Yeah, which is why I've said so many times, it's kick the can down the road. That's the main game they're playing right now.
Yeah.
That's the best route for them to plan. As long as we keep kicking the can down the road, we can do the best thing we can do for our individual selves.
Yeah. Could you maybe elaborate a little on you mentioned the founder beings, and they're on a movement toward polymorphic light versus their current state might be liquid light. Can you maybe
that liquid light is being the highest state? So it's really hard to describe that particular part of the journey. And when Bruce specifically wanted to know about founder beings and was listening to the Galactic History episodes, I had to take the time to explain to them what the old journey for the what were the founder beings and what is their new journey. Their current new journey is to reach the highest state of liquid light. Why? Because that's the next evolution for them. But they've also discovered that the creations that they left behind have created a unique karma in other dimensions and time streams. So some of them had to return back here and re-enter the collective as souls so they can go through a full unique spiritual court of equity auditing process to understand the nature of what has actually happened to the creations that they left behind and how other species interacted with it and how other high density and high dimensional beings abused that creation and made it into something it was never intended to be. That's the 15 multidimensional beings.
Yeah, right. Now, I had another question. Like you mentioned that why are the humans the best in class genetically because of the small founder DNA percentage?
Higher founder being DNA percentage.
Oh,
Comparative
higher.
to the rest of the universe, we're the Porsche body skin suits compared to everyone else in the universe is driving Yugos. Okay.
Is that an element of why they're trying to control us because they're
Yes.
kind of jealous?
Yeah, absolutely. They want our DNA. That's why we're a farm, so that they can sell this DNA as a commodity to whoever they want. Okay, it's value to them. It's a beyond a gold mine. It's diamond mines for them.
I can see why they want to keep kicking the can down the road then, because we're a good source. I mean, look at the price value of this stuff.
Right, exactly. So that's why they've been fighting so hard to keep it for so long.
Okay, last question. Is breathing, the in and out of breathing, is that a good metaphor for the conveyance of implicate and explicit experience?
It could be if there was consciousness and not passive voluntary breath behind it. So if you're in a high level Wim Hof breathing or pranayama breathing, yes, it's a very good expression because breath and consciousness are united. If it's just you background breathing as you're having a conversation walking down the street, not really. It's just basic body chemistry and voluntary body chemistry. So implicate and explicate is still about the consciousness in and out of itself.
Great. Well, that's all the questions I have. It's an amazing book and I continue to enjoy it.
Well, thanks a lot for calling in, Paul.
Okay,
Thanks,
thank you.
Paul.
All right, Robert, let's just spin up the wheel of colors and see who is next.
Okay, Atassier, signal to unmute.
Tassier, are you there?
Hey, Andrew, can you hear me?
Great, my brother from another Earth mother.
Oh, it's good to, my sister purchased the book. I'm on page 144. And I want to thank you and Bruce for bringing this into this form so that those galactic historian geeks like myself and everyone on here can chew on the material in a literary form, because it goes into the brain differently when we're reading it. I had a question. Oh, did I?
Real quick, how does it go in the brain differently for you individually?
It causes me to have to switch from the left hemisphere of my brain, where I'm taking English and the encoded light that English distills things into, and then moving it to the right hemisphere of my brain to imagine the pictures that are being described through the English language. So there's like a translation between the hemispheres that's different than if I'm just watching a YouTube video and listening to your voice, or even having a private reading with you and talking to you like this over Zoom and imagining what you're talking about. There's something about having to read it and translate it into a picture in my mind that has the information landing differently or creating new neurological pathways, I guess, in my thinking pattern.
Yeah, new neural net pathways. Yep.
Yeah. So one of the questions that I had is about entangled and unentangled observers. In the first chapter where you really start to unpack those concepts, I think that I remember reading about you saying that there is a way to observe what's happening in creation without affecting it.
Pure unentangled observership, yes.
And is that something that moves at such a higher dimension that it transcends the quantum mechanics or the, I guess, Newtonian physics, where we say if a scientist observes a microscopic particle or something, their observation automatically affects how that particle interacts, because I've heard that that's a law.
Yes, this is adding, it adds something else. If there's an entangled observer theory, there will ultimately be an unentangled observer. They're just not exploring it as a theory. Consciousness and its observation of other things in states of consciousness through different dimensions of perception. Now, Bruce and I had a long conversation early in the book about entangled, unentangled. Should we even put this other stuff in there? And it ultimately is in there for a specific reason, for those that want to have compound fractals within their brain to make an understanding of data itself. And then being able to massage the data in such a way you can make your unique pattern recognition. Really, Bruce?
Damn it, man, see it, doctor.
My dog just.
Oh yeah, blame the dog. Yeah, all right. Yeah,
exactly.
What did that sound like? That was just him shaking off his sleep. That's a pit bull.
Yeah, but you're dealing with two spiritual comics, and it sounded like you evacuated your bowels.
No, that's the dog.
I know, but my reality sounds funny.
So when it comes to the unentangled observer, that's a higher state of consciousness. Things in the right DNA skin suit can learn how to do naturally. Okay. So the unentangled observer, as you get further into the book, you'll find more about the unentangled observer.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that chapter left a little cliffhanger for me where I was like, ooh, this is giving me a question mark thought bubble above my head that I'm like, I need to know how this could work.
Bruce, did you want to add anything about the unentangled observer side?
Yeah, so another way of looking at it is what they talk about in a lot of paths is especially the contemplative paths, is the law of detachment, or another way of saying, be in the world but not of the world. And so it's about living and having the living experience without creating karma, without creating at least karma you don't want as part of your daily existence. That's the way I would say it. What, has that sound about right?
Yes. And that unentangled observer status is something one achieves on the movement of raising one's consciousness.
Yeah.
So don't fart in an elevator, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
no, you can fart in the elevator and be the observer of its effects and not smell it.
Well, yeah, that's the comedic side. Just
Okay.
and if no one knows who farted, yeah, I can see the untanglement of that.
So Tasia, what are some of the other things that you've noticed through the book? Has it made you laugh at all?
I think the first couple of chapters I was chuckling to myself, but I can't remember what this was. Yeah, actually, yes. David Ellis's
Opening
made me laugh a couple of times in the first couple of chapters, where there's this kind of tongue-in-cheek poking at esoteric secret societies and lineages of gurus and systems that have very stuffy opinions of themselves about being right. And there was just a way that there was like, be forewarned, if you read this book, you're probably going to get triggered and like, stop taking yourself so seriously. So I was enjoying that the voice that was challenging stuffy ideals to kind of come off there.
The spiritual MC in the background.
Yeah, that made me smile and laugh out loud several times. And I like how each little section has their bite-sized, like 3 or 4 page chunks with a title, like, Sound and Light, or The Story, or Co-Creation. And so there's these little nuggets of, I just have about 4 pages to get through, and then it creates this excitement to go to the next one and the next one. So it keeps me like hooked and wanting to get through it. And even when I finish the book, I'll probably still want to go back. But it feels, even though it's really dense, the way it's divided up in those small 4 or 5 page nuggets makes it feel more digestible than if the chapters were just endless.
We cut your meat.
Yes, and Bruce and I, that was intentional. Bruce
Yeah.
was trying to come up with how to do it, and it just have to do the 72 1,000 word sections.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's perfect for me. The way my mind works makes it like, oh, I just got through that section. Even though I'm still kind of probably more confused than I am clear, I still feel like I accomplished something in the mental gymnastics of just reading to that section. And now I can kind of psychologically pat myself on the back and then keep reading.
Dopamine release. I did it. Dopamine release every 4 pages.
Yes.
Watching you binge watching a TV show. Just one more episode. It's 4 a.m. Just one more episode. Just one more episode.
Exactly. That.
That's good writing there. So peak and then kind of cliffhanger and like, whoa, I need closure on that anecdote. Damn it! And then the sun comes up. I'm like, I really should go to bed.
Yes, perfect.
Do you have any aha moments?
The most recent one that I can remember is the concept of agencies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And how everything in the world at a macrocosmic or even universe is run with agencies, and there are non-physical and multidimensional macrocosmic agencies that are human 3D agencies are just a microcosmic expression of these hierarchies that on a, what do you call it, administrative or logistical level get more and more complex even as you go up multidimensionally. That was an aha for me, because I tend to think like, oh, as we go up into the spiritual realms, things maybe refine or simplify and become less sickeningly bureaucratic and complex with the politics. But from that chapter, it made it seem like, actually, no, they continue to be like a muddled rubber band ball of chess and different groups and organizations that administer or allow things to happen or not that you have to go through in creation.
Yes, they help you manage your production of karma.
Yeah.
They're the ones that keep you on task. They're the ones you contract in the other world to make sure you go through the experiences that you're supposed to each lifetime. They're the enforcers.
Yes.
Okay. And then sometimes these agencies, you hire a low quality agency. Why? Because you want a rich ass experience, or you come for Trailer Trash Soul Family. A lot of people in this lifetime have to realize that the soul families they were born with were not high frequency. There are good people inside them. They're just not very well advanced and have some serious issues.
And that's part of the journey as well. It's the karma resolution, which I do find fascinating, because it's like when people say, oh, I had a dream. It's like, well, that's up to 7 or 8 different meanings. Like, was it timeline? Was it this? Was it that? Blah, blah, blah.
Was it Martin Luther King?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like, did you eat too much mushrooms the night before? Was it an awesome tea cake? With the spiritual side of things, you got your soul grouping, but then once you go into the skin suit, you have the family lineage and the community as well. And the theme that I'm sort of seeing in this epoch, which I can sort of link to Pink Floyd The Wall, is we're here to break cycles. Just don't dive too heavily in how many cycles you're doing, because you got your personal experience, then you got your family experience, then you got your tribe, and that's just the physical, the DNA skin suit. Then you've got, and just see, I'll stop now because I'm overwhelming myself, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, that's what, as someone in the DNA skin suit that I'm in, which is a mixture of indigenous, African, Moorish, and even European bloodlines, the amount of karmic intersections and historical identity complexes that are bound up in a kind of duality based war type of thing, it becomes really overwhelming to be identified with that and know that I'm actually a starseed and I'm a celestial mind and I'm not just the junk of the DNA skin suit, but the charge that I'm carrying in the cells still has its story and has its polarizations that almost can possess me to react like a puppet on the strings of the ancestral karma.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah. You've got. We just explained all what's happening on the planet. Let's not start with the galactic community of what you're bringing from outside inward, or all that type of stuff.
Well, brother,
Yes.
thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for calling in. We're going to move on to the next caller.
Thank you so much.
Gracias.
Have a great one. All right, Robert, let's spin up the wheel of callers and see who is next.
Okay, harmonic blueprint, signal to unmute.
Harmonic Blueprint, are you there?
Hello?
Hello, where are you calling from?
Hello. I'm calling from Margaret River in southwestern Australia.
Margaret Rivers, southwestern Australia. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Yeah, congratulations on your book.
Thank you.
Andrew
what do you think
and
of it
Bruce.
so far?
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to be honest here because I haven't read it from front to back. I've been reading bits and pieces as I can. My life has been rather busy, which is wonderful.
That's why it's in short cycle and short reading bits for you.
Yeah, and it feels very familiar actually. As I read it, I feel as though it's awakening something within me that I kind of already know. So it's allowing me to access more of myself. That's how I feel.
I had that experience as well, like the higher self going, yeah, see.
Bruce had the exact same thing going on. He's like, it's like I know this stuff already, and you just put it in a way I couldn't put together.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes, that's right. But the timing of it coming out seems really potent. It seems like perfect timing at this point with everything the way that it is in the world. And it's beautiful. And the way that I would describe the information that I have read in there, it's like information origami. It's kind of like what you said, Monty. It just, you can open it out. It's multi-layered.
It's fun. It's like experience. You could be intense, but it's fun. It's the exploring. It's not what's that term you use, Andrew? It's not curiosity learning. It's genuine learning, and it's usually the higher self going, "You're nearly there. You're nearly there. Go on, go on.
Here's your cookie. You get this cookie. You finish this chapter.
Keep going, keep going." Yeah, it opens out infinitely for sure. And I think, Bruce, you were talking about the energy circuit board as you were describing Andrew and the way that he works. It's the same with the book.
Yeah.
It opens out like a circuit board. That's the visual that I get.
You never see it coming. It's like a fox in the snow. You don't hear anything. You don't see anything. It's just there.
And as I joked before, I am the weasel that got into CERN. That weasel is being honored in the spirit world of every weasel clan throughout the 7 universes.
It was an honor.
Yeah, it's a recipe book too, and lots of ingredients to create one's own unique perspective of reality, I guess. So,
have you had any comical moments from it?
I definitely laughed when it arrived because I opened it up and I guess was really excited to have it in my hands, and it arrived quite quickly actually, which was great. And then I took it a couple of times into ceremony with a few people. It just felt like the right thing to do to have it nearby. So it's like an entity in itself. So that's the kind of comical aspect that I find, is that, and also just opening to a page, and it'll be the absolute perfect thing that I need to read in that moment. And that can be quite like, yeah, of course.
So with that being said, you have the book next to you?
I've actually lent it to a friend who is.
We'll have Monty do it. Monty, randomly open to one page and read the first paragraph.
Commerce. Earth has more gold than we can use. The gold is everywhere. There are positive ways to mine gold. They're using gold for the wrong purpose. 90% is for industrial use and only 10% is for recreation. Think about that. Do you want to keep me going? Or
if you want to go a little bit more, because there's more context there, yeah.
Well, if you want to put it in context, yeah. Gold is meant to be available for all of us. There is a reason why the mines adorn the walls with gold. It amplifies our frequencies. It can imprint messages into gold through carvings and molding figurines. We create prayer spaces that can absorb holograms with gold. Imagine a ton of gold lining the inside of a house, all corners and walls, the ceiling and the floor. It's going to amplify the frequency of the home no matter what we do in it. Our clarity can be increased by as much as 80%. Everything that has an electromagnetic frequency has high clarity through being in contact with the gold. Gold allows electricity to move through circuits faster. Anything set up like circuitry, DNA, or the way stones are aligned will increase the flow. We have gold inside our bodies, inside the general body system, our chemical makeup. We can naturally transmute them and make gold inside our bodies at any moment in time. Silver is a natural antiviral and antibiotic. Okay.
That's good.
I'll start talking about silver.
Yeah. Screw silver. Second rate short
Gold.
silver. Yeah, short on silver.
So you're saying that Saddam Hussein, when he took, what was it, Gaddafi, whoever the solid gold toilets, do you have those
Donald Trump?
Actually, no. Both Gaddafi and the Iraqi dictator had it, and Trump too. Yeah, they all had solid gold. That's a big thing for billionaires, to get a solid gold toilet.
Yeah, but they probably don't use it properly.
Well, whatever is there, I don't want to be the fly on that wall.
Oh my god!
Well, because life is better after a big poo, and if it's gold and amplifies, and a lot of people have aha moments while taking crap.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, just out of my own curiosity here, I cracked open a map and I looked for your location, Margaret River in Western Australia, and I know that Monty lives in Melbourne, and it was just a reminder how huge your country is.
Yeah,
it's like 3,598 kilometers away. It would be 39 hours and 9 minutes of straight driving.
Yeah, you're 3 hours behind at the moment, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's like 9:20 there.
What is the time? It's a good question. I'm not sure. But yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Provincial identity in Australia must be very, very strong, just because the landmass, like it is in Canada, it's huge. If you're from Ontario, you're completely different than somebody from British Columbia or Alberta, and I imagine it must be just a completely different light over by Perth than it is down by climate, everything. Yeah.
Yes and no. There's the unique frequencies for the area, but we're Australians. That's one way of saying it, isn't it, Tracy?
I guess so. Yeah. But I think it's to do with the land.
Yeah.
I was just tuning into, because the land is so different where you go. Like Western Australia, the climate. You go up north and you have the deserts and the red. And, that really indigenous connection, because a lot of the land up there is still quite untouched, except for the bloody mining companies. But yeah, I feel a big difference in what is surviving in those areas. Look at the animals and the plants, and Just even the coastline, like quite here, it's quite, there's lots of cliffs and rocks, and it's quite a rough area as far as the ocean is concerned. But then over east, it can be so calm in places, and it's just totally different wherever you go, isn't it?
Yeah. But I could point out suburbs in Melbourne where different slang or different fashion, and there's only 10 kilometers difference or 5 miles difference.
Oh, yeah.
And it totally like, what the hell is a gank? What are you talking about? But then I can go to Perth and like, oh, if you don't Sydney and Melbourne have this rivalry that's been going on for 120 years. It's slowly dying out because everyone's like, well, this is pointless. But in Sydney, everyone's awesome until I mention I'm from Victoria, and then they turn. If you don't sort of tell where people like, I could meet Tracy in a cafe here, and eventually, oh, I'm from Margaret River. Oh, surfing. But it's the Australian idea. It's everywhere is unique, but we've got the similar people living in their uniqueness. If I can say it that way.
Yeah,
but it is very far.
All right, Donald, thanks a lot. All right, Donald, thanks a lot for calling in. We want to move on. We got a whole bunch of people still got their hand up. We want to try to get to everyone.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have a good one.
Con mucho gusto.
All right, Robert, let's spin up the wheel of callers and see who is next.
Okay, familiar voice, Santo.
Santo Cavallaro, are you there?
Hey, good morning to you.
Good morning to you.
Another Aussie, but from the other side of Western Australia, totally opposite to where Tracy is. So figure out that distance, Bruce. Quite a distance.
Where are you?
I'm on the Gold Coast, just in the hinterland of the Gold Coast.
Just below.
So that's on the East Coast.
Yeah.
I see. Yeah, that's massive.
East Coast, mother lovers. Yeah.
Exactly, East Coast.
Huge.
Yes. But congratulations on this book. It's absolutely fantastic. So to everyone, the team, Andrew, Bruce, what a great book. And it's a pity that it doesn't have the, I don't know how you access that greater audience, because I bought a few copies that I'm going to give to people who claim they are quite awake and aware. And I'm just curious to see.
Have fun with that.
That's how
exactly.
Santo, that's how the movement starts, where smart people like you just start leaving it at a coffee shop, putting it in places that you would never go, and seeing what the universe does with it. Allow it to do it. The material sells itself.
Exactly. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to this, because it's just opens up so many, rooms for opportunities of conversation. But a couple of callers before me, I was having all sorts of gremlins today. I don't know why, but anyway, I've missed out on some of the conversation, but I caught the tail end of someone talking about the entangled, unentangled observer. And it just reminded me, because on page 181 of your book, you say cats have a vagus nerve and are unentangled observers. I thought, well, that's interesting.
I've said that on many, many, many live shows. Cats are the first entangled observers. They were the first DNA lineage that was created that had it in it.
Right. So, but you say specifically there they have this vagus nerve. So my question is what's the relationship between the vagus nerve and
it allows the entangled and unentangled observer to be equal consciousness without compartmentalization or competition between each other, because they're operating at such different perspective scales differences. That's why the vagus nerve needs to be there. That's what ultimately makes them have the potential of being an unentangled observer who can travel through the multiverse of time.
And that's what I like to joke. What happens in the vagus nerve stays in the vagus nerve, because it doesn't.
Yes, so the vagus nerve is an integral part of the unentangled observational
the journey to even have it as a potential in you. Yes, you have to have a vagus nerve or something that does the similar filter processing system for the multidimensional consciousness to have unique experiments that are open sandbox experiments.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I just like the cat reference. That's what I like.
Well, thank you.
They are our overlords, and we bow down to them. So
yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
So as I ask everybody, has anything made you laugh yet, or snicker at the irony?
Well, that bit really did make me laugh, because I thought, oh, cat's got a vagus nerve. Great.
Don't know, they're learning things new every day.
Yeah, exactly. But another section, I got so many questions, so I'll just limit it to a couple. But
no, take your time. Ask a couple different ones. Okay.
On page 158, paragraph 3, you say that one of the 15 lured the Anunnaki by, quote, carrot and stick. And,
yes,
you know, you make reference.
Crumbs, carrots, and sticks, yes. They put archaeological finds spread throughout the multiverse that led them breadcrumb, carrot, and stick. The stick and the carrot meaning something was guiding the species energetically, and the species had some form of awareness that a higher force or some unique power was drawing them to the next discovery. It's like gold. It's like getting gold fever.
Right. So the chapter does give a very good metaphorical and high level kind of perspective of this carrot and stick methodology that the one of the 15 used to lure them. But it gets, you know, I don't know whether my head works in overdrive when I start reading it, because I started asking, why did they do this? Why did the Anunnaki, first of all, did they even have a central sun? And
no, they were a free roaming galactic planet. The planet had grown to a point where it didn't need a single solar system to survive. It can survive out in the void space between galaxies. It had a unique temporal and density dimensional drive with a planetary consciousness installed.
Okay, so it was their free will decision as a collective that they would roam around and collect soul codes, and they weren't breaking the rules by having a dimensional drive technology, spiritual technology to do this.
Correct. There were many other worlds that did the same thing. The Anunnaki were just like Indiana Jones level. They were really damn good at it.
But in this universe, it was the guidelines. They weren't breaking rules. They were just figured out a way.
They would light bend the rules, which made them the perfect candidate for the multidimensional beings to get them here and for them to go Dr. Mengele.
Okay, so when you say carrot and string breadcrumbs, at some point in a universal kind of rule way, there's an agreement. So was this one of the 15 just have better legal skills in terms of inserting fine print into an agreement with them?
No. There's a moment where the Anunnaki High Council and the multidimensional beings become aware of each other, uniquely aware of the manipulations that have been done over thousands of years. The Anunnaki aren't dumb, but you have the 15 multidimensional beings at times were closely working together, so they could cover themselves in temporal tracks and make it virtually impossible for technical or spiritual things to unravel the truth of the story. Remember, they're seeding things through time to act as the bait to go from this world to this world to this world. So you're putting together a bigger story, and it goes from one generation to another, and they keep getting enough to fuel more, and then they get a big richer and something richer. Look at this founder technology we found here. We just got to keep following the story, and they just kept grew to a cult status, and they got the political influence to get the whole planet's resources to go after these breadcrumbs.
Yes, but whoever, you know, this one of the 15 was, obviously had a better self-servicing model in that.
Yes, 100%. The thing is, when they became aware of each other, there began galactic haggling. The planet itself, that the Anunnaki planet, it became a neutral auditor of the contracts that were being offered, which included the stuff you're signing up to do that you haven't done yet. Okay?
Right.
Which meant that the Anunnaki were a key fixture at creating and reducing karma that had created uncreational events. They were a key piece to put together the galactic ascension machine.
But wasn't the underlying intention of this one of the 15 was to short track, get a shortcut to collecting soul codes, and they were the perfect candidates?
That was there were many reasons behind that, but yes, having soul codes fulfilled many other aspects too. But they had to get them there first and agree to this as a species. So that had to be, their planet was acting as the spiritual court of equity, past, present, and future, and the planet would decide what's redacted or not, because if they're going to go through the experience, there's no pre-knowing about it until you get in.
Right.
Okay?
Yes. Okay.
And there was a lot of haggling, and every individual Anunnaki had a representative from the 15 multitude of beings come to them like the devil with the deal moment. Okay.
Yeah.
And they wholly took it. They took it.
So they got
there were some that did, some that didn't, but they took it. But as soon as they took it, it fundamentally changed their timeline.
And they couldn't go back. They kind of
No.
Yeah.
You can't go back at that point. At that point, you're signed up for a whole era of light. Yeah.
So
because that soul codes allowed the multidimensional beings to reach even further into other galaxies and other universes and lure things out of hiding. Go poke the dragon over here and see what happens. Go and lure this defender out and see if he's still defending. What's going on in this particular space? Let's send some thugs over there and just let them be pirates. Whatever we can do to stir up trouble and let that trouble lead back to Earth.
Yeah,
Take that term. All roads lead back to Earth. All the war criminals are here if that's what you're looking for. Okay.
And is that part of the what's happening on the planet to change karma? Because someone put it forward that like all the evil darkness is here so it can be cleansed. I'm paraphrasing badly, but it sounds like a I guess that's why the planet is so focused in creation at the moment, because everyone's here.
Yeah.
So to say that the most evilist is here is probably not exactly true.
Yeah,
if you look at the top 30 evil, for me, the top 30 evils in the galaxy, we've got about 8 here. Okay. Is there more? There's some weird things way out there, but they're inconsequential to this conversation. So, but this is the greatest concentration of evils, yes, but it's also the greatest concentration of good and the greatest concentration of what the fuck is that? I've never seen it before. It's never been in universal existence. This or all the other universes. What is this? Yeah. What is its implications to the rest of the universes? Let's just watch and see what happens. Okay, 6 million years later. Wow, this is dramatic.
And the writers today should be fired. Sorry.
Right.
But back to the first caller, like we fast forward through to 2014, and you kind of clarified with that call the issue of what 2014 was about. But in relation to that, on page 195, you say there's a council of 12 energy beings who sit on the spiritual courts of equity, ensuring soul families can't resolve issues.
Yes,
so
that's the negative bureaucracy that was put in place by the archons about 48,000 years ago.
But was that when the audit happened? Was that
that council is what was audited? Right.
So, in other words, soul families, with the rearrangement of that council, with whatever happened there is soul family resolution.
Yes, a major soul family. The archons have lost 95% of their power. They no longer control what goes in and what goes out. And the new council that is replacing it understands that whatever's coming in can't be a green bean newhorn. It needs to be a veteran of this place.
Right. So when we do contract revocations, what's the relationship between the spiritual court of equity we open, when we do a contract revocation, and the spiritual court of equity that has the 12 energy beings? What's the relationship there?
So we have a relationship with the planet, and our dragon is our celestial teacher that exposes us to things like the court, that spiritual court of equity. That's the immigration court. So part of planning past, present, and future in eras of light, you have to line up souls who are in different places and spaces in different universes and times, and make sure they all arrive in a frequency of time to have an incarnation that's been pre-planned by their fetuses in the wombs over here as part of the greater DNA technological interaction process, being planets being hubs of interconnectivity. So it's all spiritual time management, and making sure that what's been in the blueprint is here. And there are times souls don't make the cutoff line. They make it late to a place, and things have to go to plan B or plan C or worse.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then there are some souls that are just really bad at planning, and they're horrible at timing, and they end up being a do-it-yourselfer soul who just has major flaws every lifetime they can't get over.
Yeah, it's probably sometimes terminology, and I remember hearing you when you were talking about creating the book, you'd started with this concept of having, terms and definitions, and then it's like, well, where do you begin and end? And sometimes it is this musing over purely what is the definition, because even something like what is a soul code, I had so many notes in terms of relationship between DNA and soul codes, and it gets I find I have to keep revising my understanding of what each one of these terms means. And
ironically, we did a glossary of terms, and how many pages was it, Bruce? Like 78 pages.
Yeah, massive.
It was massive, and it said it was just something we couldn't. I'll probably put a way to put it up on the website or something like that.
One thing I felt would have really helped me, because I'm more visual than, kind of looking at words, is because there's a lot of references to time and events. And a little bit when I was listening, I re-listened to the Lance White interview, and I saw a lot of correlation between the book and that series. And what I found, like when Lance would be interviewing, he would get lost in terms of, was that the first fall, the second fall, was that before the pyramids, after this? And there's so many, you would say, oh, that was the third fall of Atlantis, but before the first fall of this, would be like a timeline, those timelines where you just go, here's a big line, and these are all the events along this line. To be able to just have it up on the wall and just visually look at it every now and then, go, oh, I'm at this point here, first fall of the Lemurian. And the other thing that I found useful was, remember when there was the old Q movement, they'd have the Q maps.
Yep.
Those visual maps that you can just go, wow, I can see relationships. And a lot of this information has so much information that it's difficult to keep the pattern and the relationships, specifically in relation to time.
What you're talking about right there is what I want to do with the ebook.
Excellent.
I want it to be multimedia, so that those words have greater explanation, just like you just talked about.
Yeah, or you have to release a companion book where illustration and glossary and everything else like that.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of weird. You're reading a book, and then you open the other ebook, but. The thing about timelines, because Andrew and I had interesting conversations. When you start talking about timelines, you need about 8 whiteboards just trying to figure it out. So you want to keep it sort of, I guess you could say, like the Atlantis timeline and do it that way, because
exactly,
it's you don't want to go into that timeline spaghetti mess. Like at a music venue, and like you've got the leads and the chords, and it's just a ball.
Exactly, spaghetti. But another thing, just another question or another comment was, you mentioned like a lot of these groups, like the Syrians, the Octurians, Pleiadians, or the Anunnaki, but you don't mention the mantids or the mantis anywhere. Where do they fit into the Hubble interconnectivity, or are they not relevant to this story?
They were very relevant, but it was what could we put in the book versus what
Okay.
what was going to make the final cut.
Okay.
Bruce, what mantis stuff did we have that didn't make it in?
I can't remember right now. No,
it wasn't very much. It was from one of the other
No.
transcripts. Yeah.
Yeah.
They have a significant history. I mean, it's not all Arcturians and Pleiadians here, even though we hear a lot of that in the call-in shows, but that's just was born in that generation, of those scholars. So they're 30% make up 30% of the population are mantid souls, but they have very, very unique trigger circumstances for them to connect to the right soul family. Because if they connect to their right soul family too early, they become highly effective management and high and shareable intelligences. They can form a non-telepathic collective that can work through very subtle body language. It's almost like a body telepathy.
Yeah, well, that's why I was asking, because if that's true that they have this kind of, you could say, management facilitation skill, wouldn't they be integral at this point of time in the system of domination and control to facilitate a lot of these agendas?
Yes, you are correct. But there have not been a lot of mantids who have willingly chose to go that way. And they have to make the full deal with the devil on that, because their souls are still connected to their initial queen that gives birth to them. And the queen can delete them out of the lineage line and no longer have them connected to their ancestors. And then they're a disconnected soul, and another planet would have to adopt them, or they have to be find free roaming status, meaning they're able to sustain their light somehow.
Right, okay. Just one more. This part here on page 198 got me thinking, because you talk about the living algorithm of life as superluminal thinking. And so what's the difference between becoming the living algorithm of life as superluminal thinking?
So
or
superluminal thinking is an experience one has when you enter the hub of interconnectivity, and could have multiple perspectives of coalescence. And that coalescence creates a whole new perception of all this observed subject matter simultaneously.
And when you say that, it kind of does raise, and I understand why people, when they see that and they enter this ocean of awareness and they swim into this sea of consciousness, it brings up these concepts of, mushroom experience or plant medicine or ayahuasca. So what's the difference between doing it via the mushroom plant or even sacred plant and entering it from within?
There's a huge difference.
Right.
You're taking the plant medicine, and it's part of the guide, versus the self-illuminated journey, not using external medicines, self-activation.
Yes. So in today,
you naturally produce DMT, and people have mystical experiences all the time, and you can engage them in yourself. And there's plenty of techniques out there to practice them. It's self-engagement. When you take the medicine in you, unless you vomit it up within 10 minutes, you're fucked. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Literally, if it doesn't all come up in 10 minutes, even if it all comes up in 10 minutes, you're still going to have something go on. Guarantee it.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
And if it's like LSD, it doesn't matter. As soon as it hits your tongue, you're done. Okay. Mushrooms, you have maybe 25 minutes if it doesn't fully come up, like projectile vomit come up. Okay.
Yeah.
But you're still going to have some trip afterwards. You can't help it. You've absorbed it and the liver's converted it. So that's the choice. It's that you light a fuse. It's going to do exactly what it's going to do for this period of time.
Yeah. And just one last thing, the book itself. And when I got the book and started reading it, it's the very first paragraph. And I thought, I had to think for a moment, because I thought, I know what Andrew is saying here, but I'm thinking of if I give this book to someone else, because often I've noticed when I'm talking to people, this comes up all the time. And so just quoting from that first paragraph, it says, it's talking about various generic things, but then it comes and it says in the very first paragraph, it's not that they don't know, they do. And I immediately can hear people going, who's they? Who's they? And before the book, before they even start reading the book, they throw it back at me and go, who are they? Who are they? Right. And I thought, Bruce, are you responsible for that paragraph?
Yes. And there's a very interesting backstory to that paragraph. I'm not going to tell it right now, but there's no way around that, because they is the control system. And this isn't a book about the control system, but it has to allude to it, right? So it was a conundrum where we wanted to tell the truth about what's going on this planet, but to do it in a non-doomy, gloomy way. And so there is this they. Now I'm not going to put an appendix in, the Council of 300, the Council of Foreign Relations, the Club of Rome. It's who are they? Well, it's the entire. You're done the book. You finished.
I've read the book, but I'm thinking, because I've got some copies to give to people, so should I redact that sentence to the skeptics I'm going to give it to?
We hit this question head on, actually, with Andrew's mom, of all people. That's just the backstory. It was quite humorous. And I would say to anybody who throws it back at you, just say, well, just finish it, okay? Because they will become a definition of they will emerge in your mind. But there is no absolute definition of they. Everybody has a slightly different version of them.
I like what Alan just said. I was doing good reading the book until I got to finishing the first paragraph.
If someone challenges it, well, who are they? Well, finish the book. You're only one paragraph in. Maybe the answer's in the book.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I totally get it, but I found that highly amusing.
Yeah. So it's, early on in the book, we just wanted to give an allusion to this idea that would be endemic to the entire narrative, that we have been living in an entirely controlled reality, a hologram that is being forced on us, that we're not co-creating. And, it's a very difficult, it occurs in every major philosophy or spiritual teaching in the world. It's just the way, so I think they is the most innocuous way that you can say it. Them, they won't let us.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we could have put in foul, fiendish organization for world larceny.
Yeah. Greenpeace. It's Greenpeace.
Greenpeace. Yeah. All right, Sam. So thanks a lot for calling in. We got to get to some other callers.
Thanks very much.
All right, bro. Take it easy.
Bye.
All right, Robert, let's spin up the wheel of callers and see who is next.
Okay, Dave, signal to unmute, Dave.
Dave, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
How are you doing, my brother Dave, my other brother from another Earth mother?
Doing well, understanding more about entangled observer technology here with my role in all of this. And, coming in January, like when Bruce came in, and used the GitHub, because in that, to break it down, it was like, there's all this information. How do we tell a story? Because even going back to the event, which was the Lionsgate in 2014, that's when I first discovered you.
Yep.
And
you had just been recovered from a car accident too.
Well, I just had the car accident.
Yeah.
And and then we met in Mount Shasta in 2016.
Yep.
And
then you were in the mentorship class, and then you joined the editing and book group in January. Yeah, and you were part of the co-writer, the editor, contributing editor.
Yeah, but I see my whole journey, from the 2014 to that to now in the book, because as I learned your material early on, it was a bit of this, a bit of that, all the stuff Bruce got dumped on. Said, here's what we think is the best of, what we've heard. And, but how do you, like you said, how do we tell a story of this? How do we make it work? And that's where, breaking it down into the different subjects and, okay, this goes here. Well, here's celestial medium. Oh, that's too early. We got to build it up some so that they understand. And, as I'm going through it now, fifth, sixth time, after
plus all the other times you read it from the different drafts.
Well, that's what I'm including. I've gone through that, and now I kind of take it, a chapter or two at a time. After work, and I read it, and I really get deep into it and see what it is. Like today, it was on the There Be Dragons, and talking about dragons, and I wanted to get more about the tattoo that trapped the dragons into the human skin suit. What lured them here? Like the Anunnaki got lured by the technology in that.
So skin art is unique among human peoples that are clone farms across the universe. And there are certain skin artists who become very high level, unique skin art spirits that generally stay inside the clony earth realms. And there are times that dragons will take a skin artist person and bring them someone else to another planet, or assemble many of the best skin artists from many different worlds on one place, and then admire how it changes the population. The groups that wanted to trap the dragons, they understood this. So they assembled their own unique skin artists and began to use their technology and their magic to bind the linking and binding spells they needed to do, so that it would be very easy to come in and enter a human with those tattoos, which would allow the dragon to vicariously experience the human. Or it's like a not a one night stand, it's like a 5-night stand, and it's more on the dragon's favor. He might be leaving you the cab money with a sticky back. What's going on here?
but the dragons couldn't get out then
they got trapped into the human lineages. And once they got trapped into the human lineages, they became part of the Galactic Ascension machine. And then they had to figure out how they functioned in something that wasn't a part of the wholeness of the universe. It was separate of it and yet part of it at the same time. And they had spaces of the galaxy and universe they couldn't go to, which means there was a control system running them, which pissed them off greatly. And there was a rebellion amongst many of the dragons who didn't want to join this Galactic Ascension machine system. But that too was pre-planned. That made different factions of dragons doing all of these different things, which still promoted an advancement in consciousness. Because whenever dragons assemble in a handful of star clusters, some fabulous inventions and innovations happens.
Okay, and then Genghis Khan was a dragon who just appeared, wasn't born on Earth.
He was a dragon rider that assembled dragons from many other places to take up the call to go and recover the things that had spiritual court of equity wanted posters or convicted felon posters. These are people that have done crimes against the universe, and they have to come to the spiritual courts of equity, and they'd send the dragon teams to get them.
So he just appeared on Earth? He wasn't born here?
No, he was born here, but he was a dragon body, born in a physical body with all of the dragon DNA availability to it, which gave him the power to commune to dragons through the hub of interconnectivity and assemble an army of dragons who wanted to be a part of this movement. Because all of these other dragons had all of the villains that were assembled here on Earth with the same villains everywhere else. They're the ones going and erasing time.
So the Great Wall of China was built to prevent the Mongols? Was that part of Genghis Khan?
That's all the physical history stuff. The Great Wall of China has all other esoteric journeys behind it, especially the sacrificing of people that die every half mile that you create. I think 3 people died or something like that. something crazy like that.
Yeah,
there's a
they're
lot of dead
buried in the
bodies in that
wall.
wall. Okay.
Yeah.
So the Great Wall is really, it's not about that. That's just the stopping the physical hordes and the magical rituals they're doing. But Genghis Khan existed long before he was recorded in history, because he was seeded throughout time and space so that he can assemble dragon forces on many dimensions and timelines and capture beings before they would leave this place for the last time. Okay, or go and find them when they enter this world for the first time, and then try to cut out their frequency of time so they could repair the timeline, or completely remove this individual spirit, bring him to the court of equity, and have the higher powers rearrange his light frequency so that they could put the universe back together.
Is there still some of that going on now with, say, what the Chinese Communist Party is doing against the Mongol people? Is that part of that?
No. By now, it's still about who they can harvest and who they can and how much they can harvest. And if you're in a first world, second world, or third world, it's a different flavor of loosh. You know, if you're in a third world country, it's like wild loosh. Okay.
Free range loosh.
Yeah. It's okay. And then, second world loosh is more like, McDonald's. Okay, it's okay. Okay, and then there's there's Guy Fieri loosh, diners, drives and drive-throughs.
Yeah. One of the things that made me laugh, when you asked that, it was a line. Bruce may remember exactly where it was, but it was, I think he was talking about the spiritual teachers and how, to a lot of them, Earth was just like a jailbreak. We're just we're just trying to get out of here, instead of kind of recognizing the power you have being incarnated here now.
Yeah.
That's going from the understanding you're not a free range prisoner, that you have free range. Just remove the prisoner part.
Yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of humor like that in the lines that you read. Then you go, did he? Oh, he did say that and that. But yeah, it's just yeah. I think I'm got to the moon chapter today, and it's just been more and more each time I read it. It's a handbook for the years I've been following you, put in in somewhat a linear fashion. Context, human, and what's next. And yeah, I'm enjoying it and getting new stuff out of it. But like some other people have said, you give it to people and they're like, yeah, I'll read that, and then they never read it. So
it's their journey if they don't read it. You can't take offense if they don't read it.
I don't. I agree with what Bruce said. It's part of the spiritual practice. Just reading the book.
I've always said this to everyone in the group: the material will sell itself. If it doesn't sell itself to a person, it's okay. It'll find the next person.
Yeah, it's that wacky free will.
See, there's a thing about putting the physical book out and adding it to the 1 degrees of potential separation. Like I don't remember the exact. I think it were 780 books, Robert, we've sold so far.
764, but I can go check right now.
Yeah, 764 to 70, somewhere in there. So that is 780 or whatever the number is, individual 1 degree of potential separations from me. And each person from me to each book is another several degrees of separation, meaning the highest universal forces can work their most incredible synchronistic magic at 2 degrees of separation. We're giving the chess pieces to the system.
Interesting.
And it'll go where it needs to go.
I have to report to you, Dave, that my mother finished the book and was spellbound.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The irony.
Yeah. I hit my goal, Dave.
My mom was not spellbound. We'll just simply say that. So Bruce, what are some of your favorite comedy moments? I know you were the writer, and we talked about this often.
Yeah, it was just a way of, as I was working on the book and the drafts, a way of saying something would come to me, and I knew it was funny if something popped up in my head that said, people are going to think this is sacrilegious. The moment that idea came into my head, I knew I had comedy gold.
Got to use this.
Yeah.
like the one line, time is temporal.
Yeah.
The time is so temporal. Isn't that ironic?
So yeah, when God created time, he simultaneously created irony, making time temporary. So yeah, there's a lot of ways to look at this material. I had a lot of fun, sort of pushing the boundaries on what you can say in what we would call a spiritual text, and challenging some ideas that are out there, some concepts and some dogmas. And it was just always fun and always sort of amusing. And I remain convinced that the human race is going to an open source spirituality, because if you look at everything that's going on now, when you contextualize the event, which is described throughout the book, and then finally arrives at its own chapter and individual expression, all of our supply chains are changing. Like, the whole way we communicate and interact with each other as a species is going to change as we continue to go through this bifurcation, this transition. And included, when people think about supply chains, they immediately think about economy, but there's also information supply chains, which religions are. So they're gonna be massively disrupted as well. And everything about being human on this planet is going to be disrupted and reconnected and have its circuitry rewired.
Speaking of time, the audit, the event in 2014, was that Lionsgate?
It was actually August the 14th.
Okay, because that's in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And because it's I'm in the future, so it's the 30th here, July. But my point being is it's been 7 years now. 7 years, 7 seems to be a universal type of number, and like in the 20th century, I would say that probably meant something. However, with everything that we're going through, is it just someone counting days on a calendar, and it's not really energetic or anything? Because 7 years of darkness or an epoch, or what I mean. Like, what is the relationship of time in this moment of now with everything that's happening?
How do I answer that question
correctly?
I'm trying to give the literal metaphor, Bruce. Here we are. So linear
42,
time.
Monty. 42.
So
again?
I want you to think of a vacuum cleaner going forward and backwards on the same line.
Yep.
So for the first time it goes forward, it's picked up something, and then as it goes against the grain, it picks up a little bit more. Human beings in 2014 were making the sweeper go forwards and backwards 1,000 times faster than they are now. Now that means they go forward really fast, backward really fast, move on to the next line, which continues linear time, forward, backward really fast. We've reduced the speed, meaning we've slowed down the speed of time, which allows us to process deeper information.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So the slowing down of time, and then the effectiveness of the vacuum cleaner operating at its normal speed, we are then picking up the karmas and dharmas each linear lifetime. And instead of just getting, when you go over something really fast, there's no way you're going to pick up all the stuff it was meant to. Yeah. When you go at the right speed, or you go even slower, you're cleaning that one line up. And then as you revert back, that's the next line. That's the next lifetime, continuing your linear time. Now, from 2014 to now, we've switched from vacuum cleaner to wet dry vac, where we're shampooing the carpets and cleaning the carpets now.
Yeah,
we're really allowed to go deep into our linear life for experiences. And what comes after it is the drying out period.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Because 7 years, but that makes more sense, where it's so much more And it sort of basically backed up my, we jokingly say I'm slowing down time. That's why, where you can do much more instead of time is fleeting, where it's like bang, 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 even though it's an illusion, and that's ironic. It kind of makes sense where how everything is converging into one point, like like a bottleneck type deal, where with slowing down time, you can do more work. You can, tick off stuff, finish, complete contracts, everything else like that. And
take time to read the fine print and go, line 14, paragraph 7. Wait a second here. I don't agree to this one. White out.
That's supposed to say pineapple. I do not like parsnip. That should be changed to pineapple. Yep. But it's just not it's just not your the singularity life right now. It's outside of time. It's out all reaching, because it's, as we mentioned before, where it's bloodlines and karma and things, as well as soul families, and the 124 different reality things you're dealing with all at once, which is kind of, I think that's why people feel slightly overwhelmed. It's because when you wake up and your eyes take about half a minute to start working when you get out of bed and you walk into a door. It's like, because the eyes aren't it's like the atrophy of not being a multidimensional being. And so you're actually using the whole all of your existence. And you're sort of stretching. It's like, I haven't used this muscle in about 1 million years.
Exactly. I haven't used this muscle. Well, I better start using it now. Thank God time slowed down. I got a lot of, I was not very flexible here.
Yeah, maybe I should do a warm up. Hang on.
Definitely. I got to do some deep knee bends here.
I'll put my cigarette down. All right, now.
Yeah. Hopefully I don't tear my pants when I do my deep knee bends.
I'll put on my old gym shorts, and they're really tight.
Yeah, your time concept reminds me of, if you ever read Joseph Heller's Catch-22, and the Yossarian loved the shooting range because he hated it so much it made the time go slow so he would live longer.
Exactly.
I like that. Yeah, because I use the example of how time can be manipulated from your perspective. I do 5 minutes of stand-up comedy. Like a clock will go 5 minutes, but your perception of it, if I'm hitting it, connected with the crowd, it's pure gold, platinum, diamond level, it could be over in 10 seconds. Now, if I suck, I'm sure I could stretch that out to an hour and a half, but the clock says 5 minutes.
Moving backwards.
Exactly. Why am I 501? It's supposed to count down. 503, 505. What's going on?
How did your set go? Well, once I got off stage, it was 5 minutes before I went on. That bad, yeah. The creator said no and wound everything back.
All right, Dave. Thanks a lot for calling in. We got time for one more caller.
Bye, everyone.
Not just Dave.
All right, Robert, let's spin up the wheel of last callers and see who's the lucky one.
Okay, Alfredo, your signal to unmute.
Alfredo, are you there?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely.
So where are you calling from?
Austin, Texas, man. Hell yeah.
Austin, Texas. Welcome to the show. What do you think of today's show so far?
I like it, man. I wanted to talk about the book. I was like, I get called cool, but no, I like it, man. I appreciate everything. I'm really impressed by you, Bruce, because like your ability to like condense this whole big picture into this book. Like it's because like I read the book, I sped through it. I was like, I gotta finish this fucking book, and like I was like getting towards the end of it, and like I was trying to do something. I was like, fuck, I couldn't get out of the fucking restroom. I was like, I couldn't. It was changing me like really quick. I was like, I read it, I know the material, but I feel like I still haven't integrated it. Like it's got some weird vibes to it, but yeah.
When you consume it real fast, it's like having 5 turkey dinners at once, and you're not sure if you're indigested or not, but you're still hungry.
Oh, yeah, I felt so weird. I was like, what happened? I was like, is this like a, I don't know. I was trying to break it. I was like, yeah, it's probably the fucking high vibrational book that just got me here. But yeah. Oh yeah, but anyways.
What were your more favorite parts of the book?
Oh man, like especially the one that Monty had brought up, the gold, because I remember doing like the making the organite pyramids. I was like, oh, the metals, like there's something about the metals that's so unique, and like reading that part about the gold, I was like, oh man, like, oh, it just expanded my appreciation for the gold metals. But yeah, there were so many cool parts, and I really like. I mostly called because I was curious about the unentangled observer technology of the cats. Because like I read that part, and then like I was looking at the cats, I was like, man, just looking at them, like their behaviors when they interact with each other. I was like, I want to call and ask Andrew about the unentangled observer cat. Like, where did, kind of give like a galactic history, elaboration on it. Like,
let me give the origins of how cats came into the modern Andrew canon. So I was doing a show with JP, one of the Soul Expression shows, and JP had asked me a question that had a quantum mechanics background to it, and because he wanted to know how the Atlanteans could observe the Lemurians and the Lemurians can observe the Atlanteans, and how they realized they were each other's ancestors, so it averted a war. Well, they discovered that there were these common animals that were in both of their societies, because they did a massive network analysis of realities, and they discovered cats in each reality. The Lemurians had cats and the Atlanteans had cats as pets. Not gigantic amounts of them, but they were a common thread. And that's where they discovered unentangled observer technology, that cats with their vagus nerve had a very unique way of allowing external consciousnesses into a bubble of reality that its own frequency of time. They could interact with it in a normal spiritual contract level, but at the same time, being an unentangled observer, have data be fed back to another source that would process the same information for another being who was the same shard inside the cat, but in a full being somewhere else. Because the part of being a farm is you have to observe it from within, okay? So cats were developed as unentangled observers, so the founder beings can go and be an integral part of human society.
So I am right. They do rule the world.
They observe the world.
Oh, well,
okay? That's why cats and pets have unique bonds and experiences with us. It's not just cats, but the question was about why cats. Cats were the first things that were created. There are millions of things out there that have unentangled observer technology in them now. It's not just cats anymore. Cats were just the first.
And that is that the connection that, like, the witches have their familiar, but a lot of people we call them fur babies. They have that experience. Like my experience with Scoffy just taught me to love. It helped me immensely. And I'm trying not to think of when she goes, because projecting, bad thing. But I've heard of like a friend of mine who had cancer, and when she was just around 1920, a cat turned up and helped her through that. She found out she was cancer free, and the cat just walked in front of a truck because that time was over. Like the cat, like, I'm out, I've done my bit.
That's a way for angelic beings to come in as unentangled observers and do good work and not influence the time stream.
Yeah, and they're not targeted, or like they are a sort of a super spy, but they're not doing any harm, are they?
No, they're assisting the system in many, many different ways.
Okay,
are they hunted? There are times the negatives will hunt cats with unique spirits inside them because they're very mischievous Loki type beings. Like that weasel that got into CERN. You absolutely knew that was unentangled. That was a massive unentangled observer's insurgent method to simply say, I got a weasel to shut down CERN.
Yes.
Because it wasn't just shut down in this time. That weasel did so much damage. It shut down CERN and many other frequencies of time too. And it had a cascading effect throughout the entire multidimensional network of CERNs.
I remember when that happened. I named him Pierre, and he's a national hero. Oh, he's a global hero.
He's a universal hero.
Yeah.
Okay? That weasel is getting laid in every planet he goes to. Okay?
And what are you? I'm a weasel. Oh, yeah, I am Pierre the weasel. Have you heard of CERN?
Oh, hello. I am the victor of CERN.
Yeah, I slayed the donut.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's fascinating that the fur babies, there's a connection, and I guess there's contracts or agreements before, like in the fetus, where it's like, and I'll have a cat turn up, or because
yes, and the angelic being comes in to live the cat's life. But while the angelic being is physically manifested, it can't do all of its energetic being work. But as the entangled and unentangled observer simultaneously, he can get his work done in the physical world.
Yeah. Now, obviously, we have to drop body, but are we able to meet that angelic thing? Not thing, but angelic entity?
Yeah, it happens all the time.
Yeah, because they'll be like, you know, I'm still fascinated. You know how we name cats? Mm-hmm. Cats obviously have names for us.
Yes. Lazy Time Lord. Okay.
No, sexy lazy time.
Sexy lazy Time Lord. You know.
But yeah, because I remember my mum had like it'd be fascinating to find out. I don't need to know right now. No, like for those playing at home, I don't ask Andrew many questions anymore. I've just got a whole shelf in my brain of I'm going to find this out later, and that's one of them. Like, oh, I wonder what Scoffy got. Oh, just put that on the shelf with everything else.
So brain fart. Ah, oh, it was a good one. It just popped out of my mind like a firecracker. Ah, brain not functioning.
So it's basically any pet basically has the possibility of being angelic.
Yeah. So Bruce, what name does your dog have for you?
That's an excellent question. I think if I were to read it from his eyes, it's just like, hey guy, come over here and feed me. Hey guy, human, guy, come over here.
Clearly he's a Canadian.
I don't think
he's Canadian.
Like a Canadian dog. Hey guy.
Hey guy. You put on some hockey.
And then there's the down. Then there's the downward look from the dinner table. Hey guy, you gonna finish that? Hey guy, you gonna eat the bone? You gonna eat the bone too? Guy, come on, the bone. At least the bone.
Okay, you've got 3 cats around you, or 4 cats. What are they? What are your cats' individual names for you?
Human. Do our will, human. Do our will, human.
Scoop our shit.
Yeah.
That's actually not fair. It's a perfectly symbiotic relationship. They do a lot of work and keep the house clean of certain things, and they're loved and fed and treated well. What they call me, I don't know. I can tell you the closest I come to my cats is when they give birth. That's when they're most loving. Like it's the level of vulnerability. And they know it too. And if they invite you into their space in that nursing period, then they really trust you. And every one of my cats has had a litter up here, so we don't fix them, right? So I think they call me Bruce. I think probably just, hey, thanks.
Like the film.
Most of the time, yeah. All my cats are female too.
And
the male. Go ahead.
And Monty, look at Scoffy and ask her, what is your name for me?
Bringer of food. She's very vocal. It's quiet purr, loud meow. It's really weird. Like she's like reading one of Bruce's books at me, and I'm like, and you're hungry? Like she's explaining Einstein's theory of relativity. Meow 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 meow. You hungry? No.
All right, Alfredo, thanks a lot for calling in. We got to call it an end to a show now. Bruce, you want to give a way for people to get a hold of you?
Well, right now, I'd say the best thing you could do is get yourself a copy of the Galactic Historian, The World According to Andrew Bartzis. And if you like that, afterwards, I'd say try Stardust Ranch. And if you want to keep reading, just pick anything else that's there. But if you like nonfiction, go with the true crime, the Russian princess case.
And there is an audio book of Stardust Ranch. if you want to.
Yes.
If you want to listen to me for 7.5 hours. Hey.
Nice. And Monty, giveaway for people to get a hold of you.
Basically, Wafer Thin Entertainment on YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and I'm on a couple of things as well. And I could be seen next week with these fine gentlemen doing a comedy show.
That is correct. And you all know who I am. You can go and buy my book at Amazon.com. Type in my name, Andrew Bartzis, Galactic Historian, and you'll see this incredible artwork on the front of the page. And you can order this book and have your cake and eat it too. All right, Robert, take us away.
Each different bubble of reality is true. A galactic historian is a person that looks at all the lines of dramatic karma. Nudge, nudge, it's the holy grail. Improvise. Mysterious. It's counter psychic intelligence.
Why is DNA farming of this star cluster so important?
Because we do manifest our reality. We do create our reality. Hello, let's create, let's co-create, and let's change this world with love. No matter if you're from Alpha Centauri or Earth, we all began with the same birthing process. We live in a limited point of view. Living the mystical life daily is about striving for the unlimited point of view. Each day, each human being gets an infinite amount of choices. Living the mystical life daily is about facing obstacles and challenges. The level of awareness that you are working at means you have a responsibility to be equal with it. How does one truly let go of expectation? You can make the moment that you wake up to the moment you go to sleep sacred. The keys to success: choice, 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 and choice.